what's up, America? A Pennsylvania town with only 7,000 people will be building 6 data centers.
A local developer wants to build a data center in your area, and they've told you, oh, don't worry about water, we're using a closed loop. Here's the lies behind that statement.
Well, Georgia, this is for you. Did you guys hear about the large data center that went up about 20 miles south of Atlanta?
Did y'all know there are residents in Crowell, Texas who are literally being forced to live with constant artificial daylight because of an AI data center that is being built right next to them? Did y'all know there are residents in Crowell, Texas who are literally being forced to live with constant artificial daylight because of an AI data center that is being built right next to them? Their nights are just gone. This facility runs 24/7 with intense lighting that turns the sky bright all night long. I'm gonna plug in a picture. Plus a non-stop mechanical hum that allegedly never shuts off. And this isn't like just annoying or inconvenient, right? Like, it actually messes with people psychologically. Your body depends on darkness to produce melatonin, and that is the hormone that tells you when it's time to sleep. And when it's always bright, your brain gets confused, right? People start dealing with insomnia and anxiety and chronic fatigue, even depression, right? You're basically living in like a constant state of jet lag in your own home. And it's not just humans either, right? Like, wildlife is getting completely thrown off too. Animals that rely on nighttime, total dark to hunt or to migrate or to rest, they suddenly don't have that anymore. And what's happening in this tiny rural town is starting to happen all over the country, right? People living near these massive data centers are complaining about the same things, the constant noise and the light pollution and the environmental disruption. Also, AI can run 24/7, I guess, and it's somehow always small rural towns that end up paying the price for it. And so, as a Georgia resident, it is especially important for me to spread this message because I'm really freaking worried that we could be next.
Hey, that data center that they're building in Utah, that the townspeople vehemently protested against, and it's still going through. Guess how big that data center is? It's as big as 30,000 football fields. It's 61 square miles. 61 square miles is 3 times the size of Manhattan. It will use as much electricity as the entire state of Utah in one day. And then the next day, it'll use that same amount of electricity again. Every day of the year. As much as the state. It'd be a shame if someone realized how susceptible the HVAC systems are to things that are fire. It would be awful if someone realized that. It would just be terrible for that data center if someone realized that. God forbid someone realized that.
Kevin O'Leary is trying to screw over residents of Utah, according to hundreds of protesters who showed up to a town hall about a 40,000-acre data center that he is trying to build. Now, I'm going to tell you his justification at the end, but for context, this project, which is dubbed Stratos, according to him, would generate more than double of what Utah's electricity is currently generating now. Now, on Monday, a Utah board unanimously approved the data center, despite residents' concerns not only about the environmental damage. They believe the vote went way too fast without addressing the concerns. And when asked about these protesters, he said they're all paid, and more importantly said that he's justified to do it because he's the only data center developer in the world who has an environmental degree. He knows about the environmental concerns, he just doesn't care. Because the nuclear arms race of AI is more important than members of a community living there and breathing there, which Kevin O'Leary doesn't have.
Hey, what's up, America? A Pennsylvania town with only 7,000 people will be building 6 data centers. So the town of Archbald, Pennsylvania has about 7,000 people in the town. But this town will be building 6 data centers, totaling 50 massive data center structures encompassing more than 8.8 million square feet, or 14% of the entire size of the town. So 14% of the town will be data centers. Think about that. One project known as Project Scott has 18 buildings on 400 acres. Another called Wildcat Ridge has 14 buildings on an undisclosed amount of acres so far. And the other buildings are on approximately 271 acres. So this is being declared an extreme concentration of data centers for such a small town. Now, the projects are still in the approval appeal stage, but experts are warning that the entire water table of the area could be completely drained, leaving the 7,500 people eventually with no water for them whatsoever, since nearly all the water would go to the data centers. So Archbald, Pennsylvania needs to watch out, because if this goes on long enough and you do this bullshit, you might not have a town left to fucking manage.
I read the news so that you don't have to. Everyone's talking about AI taking over the world, but no one's talking about the thing that might kill it first. Not regulation, not ethics, electricity, and a bunch of overworked electricians in Texas. As you can see, the headline says, data center delays threaten to choke AI expansion. To come in a bit, let me tell you what's going on. So right now, companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon Web Services are in an all-out race trying to build the infrastructure that powers AI. And obviously, we're not talking about little server rooms. We're talking about mega data centers, each one using as much electricity as a nuclear reactor. So these are the physical factories of AI. Basically, no data centers equals no ChatGPT, no generative AI, and no AI revolution. So here's the problem. Over 40% of the US data center projects due this year are delayed, some slipping by a few months, some by years. And what it basically comes down to is three bottlenecks. The first is power shortages. AI needs insane amounts of electricity, and the grid just isn't ready. Basically, you can't run the future on infrastructure built for the past. The second issue is labor shortages. There literally aren't enough skilled workers, enough electricians, engineers, pipe fitters. And here's the wild part. Projects are competing with each other for the same workers. And the third reason is equipment and logistics chaos. Critical components like transformers and gas turbines are in short supply. So even when companies have the money, they physically can't build fast enough. For example, there is a massive AI data center in Texas being built for Oracle to support OpenAI. However, this was supposed to be ready in 2026, and that could now slip into 2027. And satellite data shows that they've barely started building most of it. Here's the thing. All of these companies are pouring billions into AI, but if the infrastructure isn't ready, then their money just sits there, the returns will get delayed, and the entire AI boom slows down. And this is kind of the dirty secret of tech right now, because the AI isn't just a software story, it's a physical infrastructure story. And right now, the biggest risk to the AI revolution isn't actually intelligence, it's electricity, it's concrete, and it's labor shortages. And what it may come down to is this AI race isn't just about who builds the smartest model, it may be about who can just actually plug it in.
A local developer wants to build a data center in your area, and they've told you, oh, don't worry about water, we're using a closed loop. Here's the lies behind that statement. First, did the developer say we are going to use a closed cooling loop, or did they say we can use a closed cooling loop? Something that companies like this like to do is tell you what can be done to reduce harm without saying that they actually will do it. Second, have they provided you with proof that they are going to use a closed cooling loop? Because those are incredibly rare in data centers. I think it's something like 5 to 12% of all data centers use them. There are a lot of developers who rely on you not knowing that you can sue someone for lying to you verbally rather than just in a contract. So long as you can make the argument in court that a conversation constituted a verbal contract, then you have a case to go after them on that. They rely on you not knowing that, and that's why they tend to lie verbally more than they do in written communication. Third, developers will often claim that because they're using a closed loop, you never have to fill it again, you just fill it once. One, that's not how a closed-loop cooling system works. Two, it ignores one of the most basic laws of physics, the law of conservation of mass and matter. There's no such thing as an infinitely reusable resource. Any resource will eventually degrade over the process of its use. It's true that closed-loop cooling systems use far less water than traditional liquid cooling systems in data centers. You only have to flush the water like monthly to quarterly instead of daily. But the trade-off is that when that water does have to be flushed out of the system, it has exponentially more pollutants, forever chemicals, and toxins in that wastewater getting flushed out into the local water supply and local ecosystem. Data centers are very famous for not complying with restrictions on how you have to treat your wastewater before you can release it. Basically, what all of these data center developers are trying to do with the closed loop talking point is sell you a silver bullet that doesn't exist. Yes, closed cooling loops do in fact exist. They do not fix the problems inherent to water cooling and data centers, they just change how they happen. The closed cooling loop argument for data centers is an attempt to repackage the problem in a way that it no longer looks like a problem, but it still actually is.
God, I really wish I had not looked into this data center in Utah. It's bad. It's really, really bad. You get the idea. That many people showed up to the county commission meeting where they were going to vote on Kevin O'Leary, this douche canoe from Shark Tank. His 40,000 acre 40,000 acre data center that he wants to build in Utah. This insatiably fucking greedy piece of shit. I want you to understand how big 40,000 acres is. It is 3 times the size of Manhattan. 3 Manhattans of just warehouse with servers inside. So obviously, my quest for knowledge tonight was, why the fuck are these city commissions and county commissions continually approving these data centers that their constituents clearly do not want? People are showing up in mass. It's so bad for their communities. They run off of gas, off of natural gas, okay? And so they're polluting the air. They need all sorts of fresh water in order to cool the computers inside, okay? The servers. So Utah, already stressed with water, okay? And this, by the way, data center will be using twice the energy that the entire state uses. Okay? The only positive that I could find about it was the temporary labor jobs that it will create for building the structures. And of course, Kevin O'Leary thinks that he's doing them a fucking favor, right? This isn't the worst of it. I'm trying to figure out why the fuck the city commissioners are doing this, why they're approving it. And apparently, in this Utah town, the city commissioners said that they felt blindsided. This was suddenly on their laps. And I'm like, well, who put it in their fucking lap? And they felt that they were rushed to vote on this. And they didn't really feel like they had a choice. So you've got hundreds of people in what appears to be a fucking like arena, like a basketball arena or something, I don't know, whatever, telling you no, but some pressure is being exerted upon them from the outside to do it. Utah's Military Installation Development Authority, MIDA or MIDA, they were originally, and that's a state level organization that was initially, allegedly, put into place to build out infrastructure around military bases. What the fuck do they have to do with this? Kevin O'Leary did not go to the county and say, hey, can I please take up 40,000 acres of your land and become a drain on all of your fucking resources? He went to the state level and he went to META and he said, we can work together. You and me, baby. We'll call it national security. We'll say that we're racing China. Because you know that they love to spend our money and our resources and make our lives generally worse in the name of a competition with another country for some fucking reason. But China's been building all these data centers and we gotta do the same. It's a race, he said. And META says, well, the United States military does have an interest in having some data centers. We can't be relying on third parties. We should have some. We could do this partnership. We could absolutely do this partnership. So META is the one who said to the city commission, you basically have no choice. To which I say, why the fuck does county commission. To which I say, why the fuck does a county commission even exist? If they just have to rubber stamp whatever the military tells them to do. But that's the fucking thing, right? It's national security. They will burn us in a vat of fucking boiling oil and say it's for fucking national security, and everyone will be like, okay, well, they said it's for national security. Because if you question that, you're not patriotic. So it gets worse. It gets worse. Not only is he taking up 40,000 acres of their land, taking up their already stressed water supply, polluting their air, he's not even going to pay to be there. Tell me why they are also reducing the tax on energy consumption from the normal 6% to 0.5%. Tell me why. I don't know. I don't do math. Is that a 95% discount? So the money that they could be making off of the taxes, the use tax on that energy, they're not even getting. They're basically giving it to him for free. Not only that, but they are rebating 80% of the property taxes. So they're only going to be collecting 20 cents on the dollar for what his property taxes would be. You pay your property taxes in full. You pay your energy tax in full. But Kevin O'Leary gets to cook up some little scheme and go and say, listen, all we got to do is say it's for national security. Are you in? And then I'm sure there's some palm greasing in there. I'm sure there's a money exchanging hands there, right? Because what is this? Who needs 40,000 acres of warehouse space to store fucking servers? He's essentially making the real estate that everyone is going to be renting from. He wants to get in on it because you've seen him on Shark Tank before. Like, this is it. This is like his dream. This is the gold rush. And he's going to make the biggest data center and everyone's going to be renting space from him. He's going to be handling all the fucking computing at his data centers. Okay? Am I saying data and data interchangeably? Yes, I fucking am. Can't make up my mind. Anyway, he cooked up this scheme, greased palms, I am fucking sure, and then they high-fived each other when they realized that they could also just fuck the people even more by essentially paying him to be there. That's what I mean by it's so fucking bad. Because they are going to be a strain on this community in every fucking way possible, and also in infrastructure. And the taxpayers will be paying for that. Kevin O'Leary is essentially getting paid to be there. This is what we mean when we say that these millionaires and billionaires, not only do they not pay their fair share, but they take up more resources. They cost you more than anybody else, and they feel entitled to it. And do you know how they justified the 80% rebate and reducing the taxes to 0.5% on the energy versus the regular 6%? Do you know how they justified it? Well, he could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to Texas. You're acting like everyone is begging for the opportunity to host a fucking data center, you fucking lying sacks of shit. But that's the thing. They just get to say whatever the fuck they want to say. And they continue to take and take and take and take, and I just don't fucking know when it'll be enough. They're insatiable. It is not poor people on welfare that are stealing your money. It's hosts of Shark Tank named Kevin O'Leary, and he doesn't even go here. He's from Canada. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. We're being farmed. This place is just a place for people to extract value. That's it. Continue to burden you, and they continue to take. Fuck Mr. Wonderful.
Wait, Amazon is building how many data centers in San Antonio? So here's what's going on. Amazon is planning multiple massive data centers on the far west side. And we're not talking small projects. This is billions of dollars in investment. These centers power cloud computing, basically the backbone of the internet. And yeah, it might not sound flashy, but this is a big deal for jobs, infrastructure, and long-term growth in our city. We're seeing more land get snapped up, more development push outward, and more attention on San Antonio as a tech hub. So if you've been wondering why the West Side is heating up, this is a big reason why. I'm Mark Stillings, a local realtor here in San Antonio, keeping you updated on everything new and happening in our area. Follow along. I keep up so you don't have to.
A data center 3 times the size of Manhattan. That's what's being built in Utah, and residents are understandably really upset. Let's talk about it. Investors, including Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary, are building a data center on 40,000 acres in Utah. The project is codenamed Project Stratos, and it includes a 9-gigawatt data center and a natural gas power plant to power the data center so that they won't use the energy grid that residents of the state are using and spike energy costs. But why are they building a data center this large, and why in Utah? O'Leary stated on CNN, "The potential of what we're creating is so important for defense, for the economy, it should be for everybody a mission. We can't let the Chinese beat us." So in short, this data center is being built for national security purposes. I'm Paige Lord. I keep you updated on what's happening in the world of AI and responsible AI so you can stay informed. And they chose Utah because they were looking for a combination of land availability, an energy source, and a state that would welcome them. Kevin O'Leary said that Utah stepped up to the plate because they had the land availability and they had a natural gas pipeline nearby. There are 65,000 residents in the county where the data center is meant to be built, and their concerns range from economic to environmental to quality of life. In addition to their concerns about how the data center is going to change the visual landscape of the valley, this plot of land is also a migratory bird sanctuary. There are concerns about water usage and the already shrinking Great Salt Lake. And according to the Washington Post, a Utah State University physicist estimates that this data center could raise the state's greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. And yes, the data center is expected to bring 10,000 jobs to the state to build it and another 2,000 jobs to the area to run it and maintain it. But residents of the area just are not convinced that it's worth the cost to them. Another challenge is that Utah's Military Installation Development Authority could have charged a 6% tax rate for this project, but instead they approved a drastically reduced 0.5% tax rate. And that's money that residents of the state of Utah are losing out on. As you may know, Elon Musk's data center in Memphis is being powered by a power plant that's so loud that it's causing major noise pollution for folks in the area. Well, residents of Utah are worried about the same thing, and they're worried about what all of this change is going to do to their property value and their quality of life. Ultimately, residents are feeling like this work is being rushed and that nobody's considering the impacts because an environmental impact study hasn't been done. Kevin O'Leary has consistently said that they're going to use the latest cooling technology and that they're going to be considering environmental impacts and societal impacts and indigenous impacts, but it's sounding more like concepts of a plan than an actual plan right now. The environmental, economic, and quality of life concerns are absolutely founded, and there are ways to build sustainable data centers, but if the Project Stratos team is using them, they're not doing a very good job of communicating that. So what do Utahns want? They want an environmental impact study so they can actually see what the impact is going to be on the state. And they also want to vote because this was passed passed through by politicians of the state of Utah. This wasn't voted on by the people. The application is going through review right now, and it needs 5,000 signatures in order for it to be added to the ballot in November. I'll be keeping an eye on this news, and I'll let you know how it moves forward, if indeed it does.
The scale of it truly was remarkable. So for context, about a third of the internet passes through Virginia's data center alley. It's located mainly in Loudoun County, which is northwest of DC. That's where you'll see 200 giant buildings like this one. They initially were built in the 2010s for the cloud computing boom, but now there's a new gold rush because, of course, of AI. So the area already has 200 of these data centers built, and now 100 more are being built. And some, like this one right here, we've randomly looked it up. It's owned by BlackRock. Now, on the one hand, you would not be watching this video without data centers. You use them for your daily life, and they are critical for our digital infrastructure and also national security. In fact, we got pulled aside by one security guard who said as much.
I stopped you, so we're not allowed to take photos. It's our national security in the United States.
But on the other hand, they cost an enormous amount of water and energy resources that have indeed jacked up energy prices and could eventually jack up water prices for local residents. Considering the fact that these companies are making tens and even hundreds of billions of dollars, this seems unjust to many. Now the data centers are expanding to other states and also other counties in Virginia, and many of them are being built in people's backyards. Now, one of the biggest questions we had was, why are all the data centers near DC? Isn't that expensive land? Why put them there? Well, they're there for a few reasons. Number one, it's close to DC, which has enormous national security data needs. But another fascinating reason is that Loudoun County is one of the safest counties in the country when it comes to natural disasters. It runs almost zero risk for getting hit by hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, forest fires, or any other natural disasters that plague other parts of the country. Driving through it was seriously mind-boggling. And now they're expanding the data centers to other states and other counties of Virginia.
All right, so what I'm about to say, this is not anti-anything. This is just more of like, God damn. But I just watched a few videos talking about that Utah data center that was being protested but got approved. And like I said, this might be a deficit on me, but I can't visualize how big an acre is, right? Just personally. I know you say 1,000 acres. I know that's a fuck ton of land. I know that much. 40,000 acres. I don't know if I can visualize how fucking much it is. Now, thing about TikTok, they did that for me. Someone said that's about the size of 2,000 Walmarts. That's crazy. That's crazy. They said it's about three Manhattans. Will use more power than the whole state each day. Like I said, this is an anti-data center because we use these shits. That we all use this shit every fucking day. If you on this phone, you're using it. God damn.
I read the news so that you don't have to. Did you hear that some of the banks that are funding the AI boom are starting to panic? So as you can see, this headline says, banks seek to offload risk to avoid choking on data center debt. Confused? Come, let me tell you what's going on. So if you hadn't noticed, we're in the middle of a global AI arm race. Everyone from big tech to governments are scrambling to build data centers. Oh, data centers, what are those? Are those cute little server rooms? No, they're not. Of course they're not. AI data centers are massive facilities that power AI models like ChatGPT, and they are multi-billion-dollar infrastructure. And because they're so spenny, they take insane amounts of money in order to be built, and that money is borrowed. So you have firms like Oracle and CoreWeave that are taking on hundreds of billions of dollars in debt in order to fund this. But who's funding them? Well, that's where the banks come in. Banks like JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, MUFG. Sounds fine, slightly boring, but here's where it gets slightly more interesting. Those same banks are now trying to quietly offload the risk of these loans. Why? Because the scale is getting uncomfortable. One insider apparently said that banks are starting to choke on the size of these deals. How are they doing this? Pay attention now. What they're doing is they're slicing up these massive loans, they're packaging up the riskiest parts, and then they are selling them to investors like private credit funds and insurers. This is all being done through something called significant risk transfers, which means they keep the loan, but you take the risk. Banks have already reportedly been trying to shift around $38 billion tied to one data center project linked to Oracle. Some are even trying to sell at a discount just to get it off their books. Now, let's be clear, this isn't your typical diversified lending. These projects are highly concentrated, so think few borrowers but massive exposure. Remember, these data centers also are still under construction, so they might not even work as planned. And quite a few of them are facing public backlash. So people don't want these giant data centers near them. They are taking land, they are taking water, they are taking energy. So the banks are now thinking, if this goes wrong, who's holding the bag? And so now we see how this AI boom is morphing from just some tech story into a financial risk story. If the banks start pulling back or struggling to offload the risk, they may stop or slow down their lending to that sector for funding future AI infrastructure, or it could also move into riskier parts of the financial system. Hello, shadow banking. And so if that happens, you know that this big, huge technological revolution that we're seeing, the biggest in decades, might start running to a very old problem. Too much debt, not enough certainty.
All right, so why is Utah all of a sudden full of AI data centers? So apparently AI companies are building massive data centers all over Utah right now, and locals are starting to ask questions because these facilities are using insane amounts of electricity and water to cool everything down, which is kind of wild considering that Utah is already dealing with all kinds of drought issues to begin with. And this made me really rethink about how I'm using AI, by the way. So lately I've started using EcoGPT instead. Not because I'm becoming some kind of off-the-grid forest woman overnight, but because if AI is inevitable, then I'm going to use something that's more eco-friendly. Tiny switch, but feels better.
Robert Reich says residents in Fayette County, Georgia noticed their water pressure was unusually low. No. Turns out that a data center 20 miles away had been drawing 30 million gallons of water in secret through connections the county didn't know existed. Is it any wonder why so many are opposed to data centers? Data centers, no, we need that water. Oh wait, before I get too mad, is 30 million gallons of water a lot? No. First thing to know is that this bill was cumulatively for 6 months. It's not 30 gallons in a single month, it's 30 gallons over 6. Second, Fayette County water system currently produces 17.3 million gallons of water a day and is permitted to go up to 22.8. So the data center QTS currently uses less than 1% of Fayette County water system's actual daily production. No, data center, we need that 1% of our water. The data center campus is currently under construction. 615 acres, 16 buildings. It will pay the county tens of millions of dollars in property taxes each year. And of course, they pay for the water that they use. If you read the news stories about this, there's some mix-up where the county utility didn't know that the data center was connected to a certain connection, and that caused a temporary loss of water pressure for some residents, until the county figured it out and they charged the data center for the water that they took that the county wasn't measuring, and then that all got sorted out and it's no problem. Robert Reich is a professor of economics, he's a former secretary of labor, and he's sharing this story. Oh, is it any wonder so many are opposed to data centers? No, did you know that early last year in 2025, some residents of Fayette County, Georgia experienced temporary low water pressure? And that's it. That's the whole story. No, data centers bad. Water use is mainly traditional office needs, landscaping, irrigation, plumbing, related uses. Remember, it's 615 acres, 16 buildings. And it's national news somehow. Oh, the 615 acre, 16 building complex is a county in Georgia's second biggest consumer of water, using 1% of the county's water. I don't get why this is happening. Why is Politico writing about this like it's some kind of story? Thanks for your time.
Well, Georgia, this is for you. Did you guys hear about the large data center that went up about 20 miles south of Atlanta? And there was an affluent community that was complaining that their water pressure was super low and nobody could figure it out. Well, the county finally got to the bottom of it, and there were 2 industrial-sized water lines connected to the city's water lines. One was feeding the data center and didn't have any paperwork or authorization, so they weren't being billed for that water usage. The second line also fed the same data center, and they were hooked up essentially illegally. And in 5 months, they consumed 29 million gallons of water without being charged for any of it. And when I tell you as voters, we have to radically change and not vote for candidates that are taking special interest money, including by the AI industry, AI lobbyists, that's an understatement. You can't say that these things bother you and that they're wrong, but turn around and vote for politicians that are going to sustain them. Yeah.
Hey you guys, my name's Ansley from Coweta County, Georgia. In my last video, I got a lot of questions and curiosity about the property that's being taken from my family to support the data center project. So I wanted to come out here and give you a little more details about the house itself. So this is the house. It was purchased in 2002 by my mom. I would have been just a baby. She still owns it to this day. It is set to be demolished on the same day it is set to be purchased, which is August the 1st, against our will. This house sits on 2 acres of property. It is off of Brimer Road in Noonan, Georgia. On the, which would be, I guess, the right side of your screen, that is the side that neighbors the power lines. They are taking all the way to right here. So they're over. So they're taking the entire house. Yeah, they're taking everything. For those of you who are asking, why couldn't we just move the house? They're not leaving her with any property. So they're taking the entire 2.5 acres. Even though there's going to be a small sliver on this side, it's not enough to put a house on. There are some existing buildings that belong to my mom on her property that are over on this side of the screen. You can kind of see there's a greenhouse right there. And then also in this corner over here, there's a large storage shed building. Like I said, it's a beautiful home. It really is. Lots of gardens. There's 2 fish ponds. There is a creek that runs off the Chattahoochee in the back. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and kind of show you guys around the property with photos. So moving on to the side of the house, this is if you were to just kind of walk straight on that picture and go around the left side of the house. So as you see, my mom has like kind of a fenced in area for her dogs. She's got a chicken coop, a greenhouse, and way down there, I don't know if you guys can see it, that is my childhood treehouse. So it's a really pretty property. On a good sunny day, wouldn't want to be anywhere else. This is a really better look at the greenhouse. I think this was actually taken before my treehouse was built down at the bottom. But my parents always kind of kept a garden and the greenhouse. My mom was big into gardening, as am I. That's how my channel started. So these are my mom's birds, chickens, and back here, that's the storage shed I was talking about. So as you can see, there's not much room over on this side of the property, and that fence over there behind the chicken, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, that's where the property ends as far as side to side. The property is pretty big going front to back, but side to side, it's all kind of squeezed in there. This is one of the 2 fish ponds. So there's probably about 20 to 30 goldfish on the property. You might laugh and say, ha, a goldfish, what? Yeah, these goldfish are like giant. I mean, they're like huge for goldfish. They've been here 10, maybe more years. I don't know when the last time my mom bought some fish were. They're very happy and very well taken care of. And they're probably going to die in the move. Just to be realistic, they're goldfish. Unless my mom can find a house that already has a pond, they're going to live in buckets. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They're not going to make it. It's another sad part of this whole story and situation. This is the creek right through there that runs through the bottom of the property. This is not the very back. So it goes way beyond these woods, what she owns. It actually goes all the way, it backs up to a gas line. But this is the creek that's part of the Chattahoochee. It just runs off in that area. Sometimes you will, when it's rainy, you know, beavers have done certain things, whatever. You may see some catfish, lots of water moccasins, just nature and wildlife, truthfully, Georgia wildlife. And this is just one more to just show it really is a peaceful place. It's really sad to know that it's going to be flattened to the ground. Everything you see in these pictures is going to be gone, and it's going to be replaced with transmission poles that support a data center that's not even in our county. It's in Fayetteville. One takeaway from this is if we're already having to do all of this to support a data center that's not in our county, imagine what happens when we get the eight that they are planning to build for in Newnan. All my mom's neighbors, you should be very concerned. If you are out there on Roscoe, Brimer, Tommy Lee Cook, Hood, anything in that area, you better watch out because you guys are next. Y'all are next.